Welcome to the Art of Procurement podcast with your host, Philip Eidson. Here, thought leaders share the trends, strategies, and tactics that you can use to elevate the role of procurement and your career.
Hi there, and welcome to episode 51 of the Art of Procurement. And sincerely, thank you for tuning in to another episode. I really can't believe that we're at 50 already. As you can imagine, there's an awful lot of hard work that has gone into getting us where we are today, but none of it would truly be possible at all without your support and without your listening. So the encouragement and feedback that I receive really helps me continue to put out the content that I'm able to do, obviously with the support of a great team that I have behind the scenes here at the Art of Procurement. And as a procurement person, I love stats, I love data. I probably collect too much of it, to be honest, when I look behind the scenes at the Art of Procurement. But I wanted to share with you just some nuggets from the first 50 episodes. So since episode 1, we've actually had over 15,000 downloads of the show. We started really small, 250 in the first month, 600 in the second month. But since the turn of the year, things have really picked up. And I know there's more to come. A key focus that I have is in trying to introduce the show to as many procurement professionals as possible so that collectively we can all help to elevate the role of our profession. The most popular show to date, that one's episode 14. And in that one, Tim Jones, the head of strategic sourcing for Google, shared how Google transitioned their procurement function from really an RFP shop to a trusted business partner. And I'm definitely looking for more case studies to share. I think those bring the theories and the opinions that are talked about on the show here. They bring those to life. And finally, a number that really blows me away, and that's that we have listeners in 130 different countries to date. That's crazy to me. It's also pretty humbling, but it really shows the global reach of our profession, and also kind of excites me about the medium of podcasting and the medium of audio in reaching an audience that is spread out across the vast majority of the world. So what I thought I would do today is reflect back on the first 50 episodes and share with you some of my key learnings. And actually what I did before I put this show together is that I wrote a report that highlights one learning that I took from every single episode. So the report is called The Art of Procurement, 50 Lessons from 50 Shows. And you can actually download it for free. Just go to artofprocurement.com/50lessons. That's artofprocurement.com/50lessons and just enter your email address in there and I'll send you a copy of that report. But as you can imagine, this would be a pretty long show if I were to share all 50 today. So what I thought I would do is instead share 5 of the key themes that I've taken from talking to the thought leaders that I have across the episodes to date. And I'm really presenting these in no particular order. So with that being said, let's go into my first lesson. And the first one that I took is regarding the future of our profession. So as a practitioner, I'd always hear that as procurement, we can drive more value to the business than saving money. But essentially, I found that we were often just the rubber stamp on a contract that's already been negotiated. I'd lament the fact that my leadership team outside of procurement didn't respect what I did, didn't respect what my profession, what procurement did, and didn't understand the value in what I could do for them. And what I learned is that really change has to come from within. We don't, and I think we shouldn't actually ask for permission to do things differently, to prove what we can, to show what we can, the value that we can bring. I think really most executives from outside the procurement function don't even know what they can expect from us. And so how are they to know what's possible if we're not being proactive in demonstrating it? So that was really my first lesson, that change must come from within. My second lesson is that technology, I think, is going to have a profound impact on us as a profession and what we consider strategic, although, of course, in my opinion, it will always be about the people. I see that the possibility of a 2-tier procurement model being fairly imminent. So you have the administrative and the tactical work. Anything that you do today that doesn't tie directly to our value proposition and where we fit within the organization, that will no longer be a part of our role. I think more than likely, those activities are going to be first outsourced, and once they're outsourced, automated as much as is possible. Sometimes it may be straight to automation, but we change slowly, so I would see it being more of a two-step process. And then those activities that remain are going to have a more broader commercial focus, and they're going to require a very different skill set than the traditional buyer role. So professionals that aren't able or cannot adapt are going to be the first ones who end up performing those tasks for a third party and ultimately having their roles automated away. Now, it's something we've talked about for a while, I think, within our profession. So why now? I think that it's been a desire of companies for much of the last decade, and certainly since when you look back to the Great Recession of 2008, to really build leaner, more agile, more variable cost-based infrastructures. Only I think now that technology is catching up, that's enabling companies to execute on this desire, and also a lot of our leaders and a lot of us as professionals are using tools like this in our day-to-day lives, whether it's the way that we're ordering meals or whether it's ordering cabs through Uber or whatever it looks like. We're getting more used to the fact that activities that all used to be packaged up and kind of behind a black box are now being available on demand. And I think as procurement leaders, we have a couple of choices. One is to adapt, make procurement more relevant, and play a greater role in really helping shape and manage the way that companies use third parties. And the other, honestly, is put our heads in the sand, do nothing. And what I fear is that if we do nothing, we'll end up being bypassed really into irrelevancy. Company executives will look at us as an administrative function if we do nothing, and then the CIO will be able to convince them that pretty much everything we do can be automated. At that point, the ROI of a centralized team to do what they think, and not necessarily what we think, but what they think are the most strategic parts of what we do, won't justify the investment. And so they'll look at integrating those activities back into the business. My third takeaway is really the power of alignment. And I found that most of my career in procurement, I've really been focused on cost savings at all costs. And why is that? I think for a couple of different reasons. As a practitioner, the procurement functions that I've worked for have typically rolled up to, or at least had their objectives set by the CFO. As a service provider, my incentives were always based on KPIs in a contract, and they were, to a T, always cost savings based. And in both cases, I think it's because the people who set my objectives really knew of no other way to measure the performance of me or the team that I worked in. And therefore, they could only calculate ROI of their investment in procurement based on some arbitrary cost savings number. And what I've realized in talking to really the breadth of peers that I have over the last 50 shows is how critically important alignment is. Alignment with company executives and with functional stakeholders. And this actually ties back into my last two lessons. As our organizations around us quickly evolve, I think the single easiest way for us to remain or to become relevant is to align ourselves with the needs of the business. Align our capabilities, our delivery model, our structure, where we sit, and critically, I think, our metrics. Only once we've done that can we really expect to become trusted business partners. And when I look back at all the stakeholder relationships that I was successful in building versus the ones that I wasn't, every time that I was successful, I think it's because I put the objectives of my stakeholder first. And every time that I was not is because I put my objectives, which were to save money first, ahead of theirs, and often those conflicted. So I think with alignment, it enables us to have shared objectives, shared metrics as one thing there that helps us become relevant and helps the business see us not as a threat, but as an enabler. My fourth takeaway from the first 50 episodes of the Art of Procurement is regarding talent and regarding skills. And I know I touched on this briefly. I think it was in my first takeaway. I heard from multiple people, and this is both during interviews and in a lot of the off-mic conversations that I've had, about the talent shortage in strategic procurement. And part of it, I think, is natural, from what I hear anyway, because of where we are in the economic cycle. There's a lot more people employed than 8 years ago, for example. But what really concerns procurement leaders that I talk to is that there just isn't the volume of professionals with the soft skills and the broader commercial acumen within the procurement profession that will help drive us forward and help us remain relevant as that scenario in my second lesson, that two-tier procurement function, plays out. And when I ask what kind of skills are important, I hear the ability to sell and influence, to develop relationships across your entire internal stakeholder, but also your supplier ecosystem. The ability to turn unstructured data into actionable intelligence, to have strong program management capabilities. What I don't hear are some of the more traditional technical procurement skills. And there's a couple of things that stand out to me about this. First, that because we have strong employment, it enables complacency, a feeling that things are never going to change. And second is that CPOs, I know, and I hear it regularly, are already looking outside of our profession for the skills that they need, because those skills do already exist within our companies. They exist in our sales team, in our marketing groups, in our program management offices. So I fear that if we don't quickly focus on developing those skill sets, a lot of the people in our profession will be bypassed, both by those coming from outside the profession who we can teach the technical procurement skills to, or by the new generation of procurement professionals who have really been conditioned with this new kind of skill set in mind. And finally, the fifth takeaway that I want to touch on today is collaboration. And I've heard things about collaboration on both ends of the scale. One end is that it's a buzzword, the second that it's critical to our future. My takeaway is that it's key. It's key to our future. There's a couple of reasons. And let me say that gone are the days when I think information was power. It's something that we tend to cling on to a lot in procurement. Technology and the fast-moving availability of news, of information, of data, that's driving transparency. So the people that we talk to, the people on the other sides of the table, our execs, our stakeholders, our peers, our suppliers, they'll have access or will have access to the same or very similar information that we do. So in that era, those that are most successful are going to be those that make sense of the information available to them in the best way, to those that turn it into actionable intelligence, and those that apply it in a way that enables our leaders and our stakeholders to be more successful at what they're trying to do than what their competitors are doing. And I think about this from a couple of different perspectives. One is from supplier relationships, and also how we build and grow our procurement careers as procurement professionals. So from a supplier perspective, we've spent a number of years, I think, implementing supplier relationship management programs. But what I heard in my interviews so far is that, and this is certainly something that I've experienced personally, is you look at an SRM, a supplier relationship management program, and pretty much every one of them has been set up as a way to extract more value from a supplier relationship. And it's at the detriment of the supplier. So that's not a relationship. That's just squeezing more than you can from your existing suppliers. And ironically, and this is more to my personal experience, is these programs that I've been involved in would focus on the suppliers where we had no leverage from a traditional buyer-seller power perspective. So we used SRM as a way to make them feel good and warm and fuzzy, to really try and turn the tables a little bit more and get more value from them than we were able to otherwise. And I've learned from these first 50 episodes, that's not going to cut it anymore. We really must invest in true two-way collaborative relationships with our most strategic suppliers, those that are core to our value proposition, with the goal that we're going to bring more to the table from the combined relationship than the sum of the parts. And if we don't, there's a really strong chance that our competitors will, and that becomes their competitive advantage. The second way that I look at this is as a profession. So I think that we struggled with sharing information we have with others, sharing our success stories, sharing our lessons learned. And I've heard others be concerned that by sharing, they're essentially giving up their own personal intellectual property. My view, my learnings from the first 50 episodes really align with what one of my primary reasons were that I started the Art of Procurement. And that's that as procurement professionals, we're all in the same boat. So we're all working to elevate the role of procurement. We're all working to make us more relevant. That, in my mind, is a lot easier to do if we do it collectively. We're all paddling in the same direction than if we try and do it in isolation, independently of each other, with blinkers on. So I think that collaborating as a profession is going to be one of the key ways that we're able to move our profession forward. All right, well, those are 5 of my learnings from the first 50 episodes of The Art of Procurement. So in summary, I've learned that change has to come from within, that a 2-tier procurement model is really going to present great opportunities, but there's going to be professionals that fall by the wayside. I've learned about the importance of alignment in making procurement relevant. I've learned that the skills that we need to be successful are changing, and if leaders can't find the skills from inside our function, they're going to look outside of our function. And finally, I learned that collaboration really is key to competitive advantage and to elevating the role of procurement. Okay, so what have you learned? I'd love to hear more. You can tweet me at the usual address or leave a comment on the page where we have the show notes for today's episode, and I'll have these 5 learnings listed out on that show notes page, and that's going to be at artofprocurement.com/5from50. That's all one word. That's artofprocurement.com/5from50. And as a reminder, for all the 50 lessons that I've learned from the first 50 episodes, you can find those at artofprocurement.com/50lessons. That's artofprocurement.com/50lessons. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed the show today. I hope that you've really enjoyed the first 50 episodes. The Art of Procurement is a journey. We're going to evolve, we're going to mature, we'll change over time, but I've had a blast in putting together these first 50 episodes, and I certainly can't wait for the next 50. So with that in mind, I'll be back on Tuesday. I've got another interview with somebody who's really a giant in our field. I'm really looking forward to publishing Tuesday's show. So look out for that next week. And until then, have a great weekend. Thank you for listening to another episode of The Art of Procurement. To find an archive of all past episodes, you can go to artofprocurement.com/episodes. And to ensure you never miss another show, go to artofprocurement.com/subscribe.